Rev up your engines!
Jeremy Shepard says, I got a brand new 2021 Lincoln Navigator. It has a slight jerk when you switch from drive to park. What could it be? Well, it's brand new. It shouldn't do anything. Take it back to them. Of course, they're going to say, oh, they all do that. It's normal, blah, blah, blah. They always say that. You shouldn't get any jerk on a car that's that expensive, a brand new Lincoln Navigator. You put it in, either there's a jerk with the transmission engaging, a motor mount's not on tight, makes a jerk because it goes from park to drive. Take it back and make a video of it jerking too so they can't say, oh, it didn't happen to us. Make it. Show them. Say you're not happy. And like I say, if you live near Clarksville, Tennessee, bring it over here, and I'll make a really nice video of it. I love making videos of problems people have to try to help them out and try to help out everybody who's watching to see, are they going to fix this problem? Are they going to say, no, that's normal? Then I'll say, well, they didn't want to fix it. They said it's normal, so don't buy one. Hey, I'm honest. I give everyone a chance. But you know, if they don't fix their own problem, that's the end of it. I tell people don't buy them. Anthony Catano says, how long do you think the modern 1.5 EcoBoost will last in the Ford Fusions? Well, from my experience, most of the ones I've seen, either the turbos went out or the engines had rattling problems before they had 100,000 miles on them. I even saw one that had 55,000 miles, the turbo went out on it. I would not buy a Fusion. They're relatively heavy cars with a little bitty 1.5 liter engine. It just doesn't make sense. You want a little car, you can have a little engine. You want a bigger car, you put a bigger engine in it. This make the small ones work harder, have more horsepower. Turbos, they're going to wear out faster. Then you'll be whining, my car broke down. I got one out here. It's got a turbo on it. It's broken. It's got 84,000 miles on it. Guy doesn't want to spend the money to fix it. It's going to cost thousands. Non-turbo would probably still be running. You know, if it was a Honda or if it was a Toyota, even with the turbo, it'd probably still be running. Jonathan Grubmeyer says, do you ever make a mistake? Everybody makes mistakes. I make a point of learning at least one thing. Sometimes I learn hundreds of things a day. You're never going to do anything perfect, but the main thing is you learn from the mistake. Learn from your mistake. Don't make the same mistake twice. And here's the thing about mistakes. You make a mistake, it's going to stick in your head. I can think of a handful of mistakes I've made in the last 50 years on cars. Guess what? Scotty's never going to make them again because I made a mistake. The customer was mad. I remembered, oh, God, I'm never going to do that again. And then I remember, every time you get this, check this, do this. Don't buy the cheap part from China. Buy the original equipment one that's actually going to work and run correctly. So, yeah, I mean, everybody makes mistakes. I try not to. I don't make that many of them, although my wife would say I make them all the time. But those are philosophical mistakes. That's a different thing. Charles Sherman once says, should I buy an 05 Toyota Tundra, 179,000 miles for $9,500? If you want a Tundra, yes. They're really well made. An 05 should have a timing chain and not the rubber belt. Not a rubber timing belt, but a timing chain that can run forever. And that's a good price if it's in good shape. I've seen them with 354, 500,000 miles on it. And $9,500 isn't much money for one of those vehicles, especially with the market the way that it is. My grandson bought one for $7,500. It had like 190,000 miles, and he loves it. Drives it all over the place, all over the country. Picks up cars, tows stuff. They're great, per usual. Pay a guy like me to check it out. Don't gamble with a used vehicle. Make sure that it's in good shape. Sajan says, Scotty, I got a low mileage 2003 Ford Mustang SVT Cobra that ticks once the engine reaches normal operating. 2,000 miles, you don't drive that thing much. Raising the RPM makes the tick go away. I did a lifter bleed procedure. The noise went away, but it came back the next day. What can I do? Now, I do assume you mean you only have 2,000 miles on that thing. It's a toy, right? Of course, mileage wears lifters, but so does time and age. You drive that thing 2,000 miles, you're not driving it much. It's sitting there rusting. The lifters will rust, corrode inside, and they'll start making noise. Sad but true. It's 19 years old, and it's only got 2,000 miles on it. If you don't drive it much, cars aren't made to sit and not be used. Things will start rusting. Things will start breaking down. And of course, you can't get any warranty out of it. It's so old, it's that you didn't put that many miles on it, and if they sit for too long, it will often corrode the stuff. If I were you, what I would do would be, you're hoping that there's some kind of corrosion in there. You want to get a good motor flush. Run it by the directions on the can. Then change the oil and filter and pray that maybe there's rust or something, and that'll clean it off, and then it'll go back to running normal. And then I would say drive it more. At least warm it up every week, driving around 15, 20 minutes. Just sitting there. Things are going to rust. You're going to get noise, and I can just about guarantee you it's the lifters that are making the noise. Well, he says, Scotty, my car's rattling when I accelerate. What could it be? There's two main rattles. One is the engine. If the rattle's coming from the front, and you accelerate, it rattles. That's the valves clattering, which is either worn timing or timing chain or timing belt, or the timing is just off because something's wrong with the ignition system. If the rattling is coming from under or behind you, that's a catalytic converter. The catalytic converters burn hydrocarbons. They're a metal shield. On the outside, they look like a muffler. On the inside, they got a honeycomb structure that's got precious metals, and they burn hydrocarbons. The precious metals are built onto kind of like porcelain, like a teacup. And eventually, as they get old, they kind of break away from the outer metal shell and they'll rattle. Now, if it works okay, doesn't overheat, you can go 60, 70 miles an hour, it's still working, you could live with it. But when they do rattle, eventually, the rattling gets enough that they break off. And if they break off, then a piece of that ceramic will jam in the back. And then the exhaust is like, it can't breathe because it's got this piece of ceramic plug in the hole. Then the car will run like crap. Then you would have to replace it. NASCAR says, what do you think of a Chevy Cobalt 4-door? I don't care how many doors they have, they're positive junk. I've had customers let's say the worst cars they ever owned. They're a cheaper made car, they cost less, and it shows. They ride like crap. They don't last long. Not a fan. Not at all. Now, if you could buy a used one real cheap and it still ran and shifted, what the heck? I've seen people buy them for $600-700, drive for a few years to go to the grocery store and stuff, and it was okay. Get in one. Take it on a long trip for 20-30 minutes. You probably said, man, I'd never want to take this on a long trip. It's a pile of junk. Plus, they do fall apart. It's a Chevy. Chevy doesn't make good cars. Chevy really never made good small cars. They used to make great big cars. I learned how to drive in a big old Chevy Biscayne with a 302 V8. But little cars, Chevy never really did get the hang of making small cars. Haley says, hey, I'm a new subscriber and your content has helped me. I'm wondering, should I get a new 2021 Mazda 3 or 2022 Honda Civic EX? Well, you know, I personally get the Honda because they make great engines. These things can run forever and ever and ever and ever. But the Mazda 3s, the new ones, are a lot better than they used to be. My advice to you is, I mean, if you want the absolute longest, spend the least money on repairs, get the Honda. Road test the Mazda 3 and road test the Civic. You might like the way the Mazda 3 zips around. There's nothing wrong with it. They got a deal going with Toyota. They make a lot better cars now. That said, if you want the longest life and the least money, get the Civic. I would either get a Civic or I'd get a Toyota Corolla. They're pretty similar, and the Civics are a little zippier. Well, it isn't just American automakers slowed down by this chip shortage, even the Chinese. NIO and Z-Pen deliveries that make electric cars are falling short in China because, yet again, they can't get the chips. So if people are blaming it on the Chinese, well, they make all the chips and they're not sending them to us. Well, they're not sending them to their own companies either. Nah, it really isn't that much of these electric cars. They don't make that many of them. Z-Pen delivered 7,200 something vehicles in August, and it's down from 8,040 in July. So it really is not that much of a difference. Even in China, the electric cars are still going to take a long time, if ever, to become popular and latched on. But this shows that it's a worldwide phenomenon, that all these companies are kind of numbskulled, that are getting a supply chain that isn't reliable. Which I find quite amusing because theoretically, of course, China's a communist country. What they're doing, selling cars for money, I mean, that goes against all their philosophies. They're underpinning, share everything, communism, you know. Well, I guess it's in name only now. And they're even forecasting far into the future. Take Tesla. Did you say they're going to delay deliveries of their Roadster until 2023? So they're not even patching the thing. Well, it's going to be a couple of years before we patch this one up. Maybe they should get a better supply chain, you know? I mean, most corporations, they're supposed to know what they're doing. Set it all up. Supposed to have, vertical integration. Hey, maybe they should do more horizontal integration. It turns out that Jaguar is making a C-type continuation. It is the replication of the 1953 Le Mans winner, an open roadster. Real open. It's got a little windshield on the right-hand drive for the driver that just covers his head, not the rest. That was the year I was born. They got to go back that far. I'm an old man. To try to get sales. Now, 7-figure range, which means it's going to be over 1 million smackers. They originally said they're going to be 8. Now they said they're going to make 16 of them. It is cool looking. But Jaguar's going back to 1953 to try to get some sales. Now, it is cool looking, and it's not the same as the old. It's going to be a modern car, of course, but it's going to look like the old one. It is really cool. I'm sure the millions heirs or billionaires will buy the 16. So for you ultra rich, realize if you buy one of these, it has the FIA homologation to it. So you can compete in such events as the Jaguar Classic Challenge, rounds at Le Mans, Spa-Francorchamps, and Silverstone in your million-plus copy of a 1953 Jaguar. But hurry up. They're only making 16 of these things, and all the other rich people are going to be competing against you. I just find it hilarious that Jaguar's got to go back to 1953 to sell stuff. Yeah, talk about living in the past. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.